What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, we did have the Xbox Partner Preview show that actually gave us a look at a bunch of different games, whether it's from Remedy, Sega, or even Bloober Team, and I figured what we do today is go over everything that was announced. Also, we are going to be talking about a bit of a surprise for Nintendo Switch Online with a classic that seems like a lot of people have been waiting for going into the service next week. And then we also have Xbox with Call of Duty, right? That's coming up in a couple of weeks. Well, it does appear that Microsoft's gonna be doubling down when it comes to this game for their console. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're gonna start today with God of War. Now, God of War for video games, God of War for the big screen, or in this case, your screen at home, where you'd be watching Amazon Prime, because there's been a God of War series that's been in the works, and unfortunately, it looks like they're going for a do-over? This is posted up from Deadline, who did have the exclusive, where they say Sony Pictures TV and Amazon MGM Studios are staging a do-over on God of War, the series for Prime Video that's based on PlayStation's hugely popular ancient mythology-themed video game. At this time, it appears that showrunner and executive producers have left the project after completing multiple scripts for the first season. The studios are apparently looking to move in a different creative direction, though one source told Deadline that the trio's scripts were praised by both Sony and Prime, so I'm not really sure why they would all of a sudden say, wow, these scripts are awesome, let's do something else. It's hard to say. Maybe budget constraints, time constraints, casting. They're doing like a live action for this, and I guess they want to try to live up to what they did with The Last of Us, which, I mean, the first season for that was really good. Maybe that's what I do in live action, but I still see some of these video game adaptations as more times than not being better off as an animated series, whether it's just for time's sake or just production, as we're seeing here. But they're going to try it again, it seems, and who knows when that's going to come out at this point. Hopefully by the time the next big God of War game comes out. I mean, I'd like to see it before then, but I mean, it's hard to say. If they're rebooting everything here, we'll see. Also, we did a release date for that Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection. This we can see over on My Nintendo News, who also actually has the entire list of games, so I'll put up here so you can see them. This is coming out, though, February 27th. Of course, it's on Steam and on the Switch. And as you can see here, it's many of the older Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, the handheld ones for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. People seem very excited for this because some of these games weren't great necessarily, but there are some really, really good ones in there that people obviously have a ton of nostalgia for. And I mean, if you look at how many games are packaged in, that's pretty good, like in terms of value. Yeah, also, I'm sure many of these play the same, but like Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards seem to be one that many people are pointing towards. So I feel like I played one of them on the Game Boy Advance, but I didn't really go through many others. So maybe I'll pick up the collection to check it out, but this seems more for people who really, really remember playing through all these different games way back in the day on the Game Boy. So fortunately, not too much longer. Look towards the end of February for this one. Oh, and for anyone who was waiting for that Joy-Con charging stand, the two-way one, to come out, it is technically out now, although it is a little weird to find it in stock. In fact, if you look over on Nintendo's website, they had this that was posted up on release, where Nintendo took a picture of it here, and it was up for $0. Apparently add to cart worked, and people were just throwing it in their cart and trying to check out. Well, Nintendo got wise to this and started issuing refunds and canceling the order. So unfortunately it doesn't work at this point as that button's grayed out. But I did look places around me like Best Buy and others, and they seem to have it in stock, but it'll be a few days before it's ready for pickup and stuff. That was at the price of $30. So I guess if you just want a stand to charge your Joy-Cons on, you can pick that up. Although this seems a bit late in the Switch's life cycle to be buying these accessories when we don't know 100% if they're going to work with the next system that we assume is out here next year. But nonetheless, if you have a bunch of Joy-Cons, you want to charge them right now or even for the holidays, it is available at $30. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Xbox's partner preview show that went for about 25 minutes yesterday, and there were certainly some standouts here and some surprises, like Remedy's game that I wasn't expecting this one with how it looks and how it plays and everything. But first, let's start from the top. That with Alan Wake 2, the Lake House expansion, October 22nd, not too much longer, next week. And I'm sure there's plenty of Alan Wake 2 fans out there who are all ready to go with this one, but we did get another look at it here. Then we had Chronos: The New Dawn. This is from Bloober Team, okay? And it was kind of a weird trailer. Like, there's a big I don't know, creature or something, a person playing chess with an older lady, and I guess they lost. So they're like, oh, well, I didn't actually lose if no one else was here. Yeah. Anyway, that's coming out 2025, and it was like a third-person horror shooter style game. Again, it's hard to say, but after Silent Hill 2, I am paying more attention to Bloober Team's projects now, just based on the quality of that one. Then we had Blind Fire. That's in early access now. They mentioned it as like a first-person shooter where light is removed from it. Not really sure how that's going to work out, but hey, early access, you can technically try it out. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Another look at this one, which, man, this game looks good. Ship customization, naval battles. I mean, it does indeed look like the Assassin's Creed Black Flag of the Yakuza or Like a Dragon franchise at this time. It looks awesome. Now, here's the other thing about this. They did move it up 1 week. Yeah, so it's actually coming out a bit earlier, February 21st, and they did make reference to Monster Hunter, which is coming out a week later. Make sure you have plenty of time to play this ahead of that big game coming out in Japan at the end of the month. Then we had Mouse PI for Hire. This game, looks super unique, stood out from everything. When they first showed it, I kind of thought it was, is this like a Cuphead spinoff or something? It doesn't appear to be, but old black and white style cartoon first-person shooter. It's out in 2025. I'm going to keep an eye on this one because, as I mentioned, it looks unique, and that's something I'm really looking for more and more now at these showcases. What games stand out just with the art style and some of the gameplay mechanics they have? This one certainly did. Then we have Subnautica 2, which unfortunately didn't get into the Subnautica series, but there is the sequel there for people who are looking for it. Animal Well, that is an awesome game. I fully recommend it. I played through it on the PlayStation 5. It went into PlayStation Plus, so obviously easy download there. Yeah, I do recommend that one. Really, really cool game. It's available now, actually, on the Xbox. We have Eden Zero, that's 2025. Eternal Strands, early 2025. Mistfall Hunter, that's 2025. Wheel World, this is like a cel-shaded biking game. It's also 2025. Phasmophobia, October 29th, 2024. The Legend of Babu, that's 2025. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. It's a Souls-like game. We've seen it before, but they showed it here again. It looks great. It's 2025. I'm keeping an eye on that one as well. And then they finished out with Remedy's game, FBC Firebreak. It's a 3-player co-op that takes place in the same world as Control, but it looks way different. It's like a first-person shooter kind of game where you're going through these different areas and clearing things out with different gadgets, some guns, some like you're shooting goop and stuff everywhere. I'm not really sure what to make of this one. 2025, though, and look, it's a different direction for Remedy. It's not what I would expect to come out of there right now, but I guess in the interest of not looking like the same thing as we have Control or Alan Wake 2 or eventually Max Payne, sure, there you go. I guess they say it's not a live service game, but they will have updates after release, just extra content and stuff, so I'll keep an eye on it. I guess if anything, it's at least different from their other stuff, and I guess we'll find out next year when it releases. But overall, the partner preview show was okay. I did ask people what they gave it as a letter grade, which we'll talk more about that when we get to the poll later in the show. Next up, let's talk about a surprise announcement for Nintendo Switch Online, which we know Nintendo doesn't really have a roadmap anymore for the Nintendo 64 or the Super Nintendo, basically any of their Nintendo Switch Online retro systems. We just basically are like, okay, eventually they're going to announce something for it. So it does come as a bit of a surprise when they announce it at like 9 o'clock at night randomly. And in this case, it was certainly random, but it's pretty exciting for people, as you can see over on their official account. They say, the Bear and Bird are back. Banjo Tooie is coming to Nintendo Switch for NSO plus expansion pack members on October 25th. Are you ready? So, okay, next week. And this blew up online pretty quickly. After in like less than an hour, it was, a third of a million. Yeah, so 300,000 views on it. And the funny thing was, as they were showing it, it went to widescreen. And I know people were excited for nothing else than it eliminates the borders. Because, like, on the sides, right? Those gray borders that they have there at all times, because it's trying to have, like, that 4:3 aspect ratio. When you do like GoldenEye, you actually can do widescreen there as well, and it gets rid of the gray borders. Same thing here. So it's a little touch like that seems to get people excited, partially because of the lack of option in NSO, yes. But in this case, Banjo in general, still completely seen as a Nintendo game. And it's so funny because It's been with Microsoft for what feels like forever now, but decades at this point. But it pops up, Banjo does, and it's like, oh yeah, that's Nintendo. So it's not shocking to think that it gets this kind of reaction, despite it being on Xbox in actually a very good version of the game for quite some time now, but here it is coming to NSO on the 25th, and people are losing their minds. I will say though, Banjo-Tooie is a really fun game. It actually came out right at the end of 2000. Like the year 2000. So it's technically after the PS2 had released, and it did push the Nintendo 64 quite a bit. Like it had a lot of frame rate issues and stuff. So that's the thing with this, is hopefully it doesn't have frame rate issues. Although again, the 360 now Xbox Series version of the game does play really, really well, and seemingly I guess they're pulling somewhat from that version, so that with widescreen support here, just being part of that expansion pack, may open more people up actually to the Banjo franchise, so at least that would be good, because I still think a new game in this series from Microsoft, especially now that they're very open to putting their games on other platforms, would do really well. Like Xbox, PC, even if they don't want to put it on PlayStation, but they get it on the Switch, I mean, look at the reaction. Every time Banjo pops up, people get really excited and want to play the game. So I'm just saying, I think there's a shot out there for Banjo to have some kind of revival, maybe similar to Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, where we had the kind of better versions of those games, even a remake, something to get Banjo back in like the limelight. I think it would work well. But for now, Banjo-Tooie on October 25th. Check that one out on NSO. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which seems to be their big push for Game Pass and the Xbox and accessories all for the holiday season, which makes sense. They spent a lot of money for Activision and Blizzard, sure, for some of the other properties, but clearly Call of Duty was the big one. It is still on PlayStation, of course, but as we know, Microsoft would be doing some things to more align the brand with Xbox and just Microsoft. So for example, we can see this. They have a whole bunch of accessories for you. So you can get a cover for your Xbox Series, which they did one for Starfield. They also like the camo ones and stuff, and then they just kind of stopped, which was weird. Now they're doing it again. And this is the strategy. You have a game, you then have all kinds of merchandise to go alongside of it. So we have the cover for your system. And then you also have two different controllers you can pick from here. The standard Xbox Series controller, they have marked at $85. And they also have the Call of Duty Black Ops Elite Controller Series 2, that one's at $165. The Elite controller does go into the Xbox Design Lab, so you can play around with some of the different colors and change things up to just customize it to some of your preferences. So that's at least a nice touch to kind of has that as a design, and then you can play around with some of the other features on it. As for the cover, it is up for $55, which is, I believe, standard. I think that's what the Starfield was anyway, like that cover. I did also notice some of the older covers are just marked down. So if you just want one for your Xbox Series, just maybe you like the camo design, I think they're like $23 now, so they're marked basically down by half. Still though, having this alongside of Xbox is the long play by Microsoft currently, just continue putting Call of Duty next to their systems, next to their services, which they did also get rid of that $1 deal for Game Pass, go figure, leading up to Call of Duty. They didn't want people to buy Call of Duty basically for $1, play the campaign, and then cancel. It's just, I mean, it's not shocking to see that at this point, based on what we've noticed from all these different companies. Now they treat subscription services or even just pricing with upgrades. So there you go. If you're a big Call of Duty fan, you can check out some of the controllers or wrap your Xbox up in some Call of Duty themed, it's almost like cardboard felt, sort of, but yeah, you can check it out. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts. These, of course, track sales week to week in Japan, and this will give us our first look at how Metaphor did there, which we can see this posted up. This is over on Stallbase Forum, and we can see Metaphor at the top, 82,827 copies on the PlayStation 5. Following that up on the PlayStation 5, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, I mean, 63,922. And then Silent Hill 2, 29,374. And then Metaphor again, this one on the PS4, 25,385. I mean, the top 4 games are all PlayStation. Top 3 are PlayStation 5. Very, very uncommon. Usually it's just like all Switch stuff. So that's pretty impressive. We'll see how the hardware sales actually went along with that. And then we have at the 5th spot, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. That's actually 19,710. So that's working its way up to 300,000 copies, but is taking a bit of time there. Wizardry, then at number 6, then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Minecraft, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and then Nintendo Switch Sports rounding out the top 10. Moving over to the hardware, the Nintendo Switch is at the top, 55,082 systems. The PS5 is actually down, despite all those games we just mentioned, right? I mean, Metaphor, Dragon Ball, Silent Hill 2, I mean, it's down to 11,804. It's not like a substantial drop, but I mean, that's still like 750 systems. You feel like when those many games come out, big titles, the system would jump in terms of hardware sales. But here's the issue with the PS5. It's just incredibly expensive in Japan. I mean, after that price increase, it's completely fallen off in terms of its sales there. And I mean, until they lower pricing, I don't really know why it would go up when you have like all these different games come out and that's not enough to push it. That's just kind of where we are with Sony in Japan at this time. And until they're able to figure out some of that pricing structure there, they're probably going to have these sorts of hardware sales. This might be more or less the roof, like that 11, 12, 13,000 unit mark, just going forward. So hopefully they can figure that out, because you see the list of games here, like there's some good games coming out there that obviously work in that market, like it speaks to that market, but it's like if you don't have the PS5 already, you're probably saving up a couple months even at this point just to make sure you can get that and then the games. But there you go. At least for Metaphor, off to a really strong start, along with, yes, Dragon Ball, Silent Hill 2. There's just too many games right now. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, give the Xbox Partner Showcase a grade. Okay, 46% said C, 22% said F, 15% said B, 11% said D, and the 6% said A. I noticed the leading comment, and then the second comment was, and then the third comment was, what Xbox Showcase? There was a showcase. Please give I didn't see it, but show the results option because I didn't know there was a showcase. And well, okay, so one, I mean, I did say that there was a showcase. We went over it, the announcement, everything here. But two, seeing that actually gives me a lot of purpose, at least it feels like I have a lot of purpose then with a show like this, where I go over everything that was announced, because many people just kind of miss it. And it's like, okay, we'll go over everything here. But it feels like it should have been pushed a bit more, maybe by Microsoft, or, I mean, Remedy was there, Bloober Team, and some other studios, and there were some pretty good looking games, but yeah, it just didn't really seem to catch a lot of people's interest leading into it. And afterwards, it was like, we'll just look down all the different games. At least for Sony, they'll do their state of play, and that can draw a lot of interest. And then at times afterwards, a lot of backlash if it's not good. And then for Nintendo, they just say they just go direct, like real, like whisper it, and everyone just rushes to it. So maybe that's something Microsoft should be working on, is some of the marketing even for these different smaller shows, because hey, there are some legitimately unique titles being shown off. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Matt, who says, Square would be disappointed with 1 million copies sold. So once again, that comes into the context of the situation. Like Silent Hill 2, based on the franchise and how it's typically sold in the past, 1 million copies this soon, I mean, Konami's got to be thrilled, right? Same with Bloober Team. But when you look at Final Fantasy, you typically expect more than what they did previously with Final Fantasy 15, 10 million copies sold. So 16, probably not there yet. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth actually went down technically from remake. It's a sequel, direct sequel, go figure. So that's kind of where Square is, but I will say, Square is just never happy seemingly with any release. Tomb Raider was the biggest red flag for me when I saw how well like the rebooted series sold. I mean, at the end of it, the whole thing was like 36 million copies, and Square was like, not good enough. We're selling the franchise. And then Embracer Group came in, and that's the whole thing now. But yeah, Square's got to get it together internally with some of their expectations, because it's got to be tough releasing any game there that's not called Final Fantasy XIV. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave a card up here for you. Or maybe you want to hear more about Square Enix and our thoughts around their expectations for things like Final Fantasy on the Spawncast channel, I'll leave a link to that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.